Good morning, colleagues. So let's begin our meeting today. We're happy to see all the participants of today's session and those who will be online today. And welcome to the session that was organized by Association of Innovative Regions of Russia. It's dedicated to the transfer of technologies and regional experience exchange, best practices exchange in regions connected with transfer of technologies. A few words about the association. It exists for 10 years. We have an anniversary this year. We comprise 17 regions, including Republic of Bashkortostan, that hosts us today. And if we speak about major directions of activity of our association, first of all, it's support and promotion of regional initiatives on federal level, and of course exchange of best regional practices on different projects, on different issues among the regions, member regions of our association. And that's why the aim of our session today is exchange of regional experience in terms of transfer of technologies and highlighting the barriers that stop this process, such as attraction of investment, stipulating entrepreneurship activity in educational establishments, questions concerning infrastructural development. And today we will try to move in this direction from design in educational establishments, then practice and best solutions to attract investments, including foreign investors, and we'll try to, so that everyone could get something useful on maybe salvation to his problems. So we have the following speakers today, representative of different regional innovative structures and also federal experts. So I'll start with speakers that are here today with us. It's Ruslan Shaymuhametov, representative of Innovative Support Foundation of the Republic of Bashkortostan, and Sergei Gladkih, Director of the Center for Technological Entrepreneurship of Ufa State Petroleum Technological University. The speakers that we have online today, it's Yegor Shipitsyn, Deputy Director of Department of Strategic Development and Innovations of the Ministry of Economic Development of Russia. Anatoly Semenov, Minister of Innovations, Digital Development and Communicational Technologies of the Republic of Sakha-Yakutia. Alexey Filimonov, Executive Director of National Association of Transfer of Technologies. Nikolai Kolpakov, Director of Innovative Engineering Center. Levan Tatunashvili, Deputy General Director on Innovative Activity, Academ Park. Pavel Grankov, General Director of the Agency of Innovation Development of Kaluga region. Yana Shevchenko, General Director of Investment Development of Irkutsk region, and Mikhail Krundyshev, General Director of Exa Atlet Company. I would like to say that association in its projects constantly cooperating and interacting with federal ministries and different federal institutions of development, including the Ministry of Economic Development, and with the greeting word we have a representative of the ministry, Yegor Shipitsyn. Is he online? Technical team. Is Yegor online? Okay, so we will move on. In the process, I guess Yegor will be connected and say a few words. If we speak about transfer of technologies, most designs are born in university labs. But how can we understand how strong is it in institute or university? Until recent, this part was not evaluated. There was no criteria, there was no research in this field. And this story about readiness of transfers in educational establishments, this is one of the direction of our work of the Association of Transfer of Technologies. So the first question I would like to ask Alexei Filimonov, I would like to understand what are the indicator of readiness of the educational establishment to the transfer. What are the criteria that form it, and how the educational establishment, after getting information, can use it for its further development. Alexei, can you copy us? Yes, good afternoon, colleagues. Good morning, colleagues. I have a bit of video delay, but first of all, thank you for giving a word and a possibility to be the first to speak on today's event. The topic is transfer of technologies and the growth of economy. It's connected, so I'm asked to launch the presentation, to switch on the presentation. Yeah, okay, thank you. So before speaking about the readiness, what is transfer of technologies and readiness for that, I would like to say a few words about the Association of Transfer of Technologies that I'm heading. Next slide, please. We exist since 2017, and today we comprise around 50 active members, including companies like Rosneft, Rostec, Rosatom, etc., leading universities that actively keep on entering to this association. We are financed only by means of membership fees, so it's kind of a network kind of development. Major directions of activity that we have right now, that we're implementing and developing right now. First of all, it's a digital platform of transfer of technologies, which is aimed to collect the demand of huge private and state business and their access. It's not about the promotion of projects, it's about promotion of technological demand. We have a lack of information in this sphere. The second is a direction is connected with. We do the development of regions. We have branches or subsidiaries, some kind of points of boiling that are aimed at transfer of technologies. We have it in Tomsk, and still we are negotiating about opening several similar ones. So we do the regulatory work in different working groups, and do the research of the market of transfer technologies, educate specialists in this field, and so on. Why do we do this? Can we have the next slide, please? Why we decided to deal with this question of, if we look at the statistics connected with finances of the sector, of this sector in Russia and other countries, we have a very interesting upside-down situation. The major investor of this sector abroad is business. 70% of funds attracted, it's out of budget financing, and 30% is the state. In our country, it's vice versa. 70% is state plus some business. And it is connected with the fact that the different research, why this is happening. We can speak about problems of uncompetitiveness of companies and so on, but the major problem is connected with, not the major problem, but The problem is in this synchronization of the demand and supply that we have between business and science. Of course, there are problems with competences, there are some problems with regulatory barriers, there are problems with transport infrastructure, because on the one hand we have everything, but on the other hand, the transfers doesn't work. And to understand the problems of the infrastructure, whether they have problems or not, we offered, can we have the next slide? We offered methodology, we developed this methodology aimed at evaluating the processes connected with transfer of technologies. Today it is very trendy to evaluate maturity or readiness of digital maturity of the company. But all these approaches in this evaluation, they come from a system of quality management when business is checked. So that the system, the company would be mature, ready. This process must be repeated, they must be written, there must be KPI, there must be responsible person, and all the business processes connected with transfers from the very beginning. From the initiation to the agreements. We structurized them and evaluated somehow the level of maturity. And we offered this for test. We do questionnaires in leading institutions. So we attracted different universities to do that. The task is to test it. It's the first reason why we started doing this. I just show everything. For example, the generation read technology push division. When we come from technologies, not from the market pool. So we ask whether you have these indicators, but the very important moment is that on the 5th of November there was a decree of the government on the roadmap on transformation of business climate and new forms of entrepreneurship. So it's all developed with development of methodological recommendations to highlight the pushes, their protection, and creation of the centers for transfer of technologies. And it's described and with the help of ministry with the help, with the mutual agreement and wish and desire to do that, we collect all the best practices to turn them into recommendations on organization of transfer of technologies that the ministry is planning to finance within the next 5 years. And these centers must create a new network. So you would say that we have a lot of centers, but nevertheless, there are some problems with their efficiency. And the second thing is that the existing centers are aimed at questions connected with intellectual property, their protection. So it's a kind of a patent ambassadors and analysts. It wasn't big organizations. It's aimed at work with industrial partners. And we would like to build a system, centers of new generation. It will give us a lot of thinking.
А во-вторых, это там некая линейка на входе, которая позволит понять, вот где мы сейчас находимся, да, и какие там...
And will allow us to understand where we are, what are weak points, and then we will move, we will understand what to do with this transfer center, where to go, what should we tune, and how we should tune the business processes to certain clear levels. That's practically everything I wanted to say, and I would be happy to hear some questions. So, frankly speaking, why we study this? It's just, if we make an analogy, it's like when the doctor checks the patient, he starts with measuring temperature. So, in order to diagnose the disease, and we do that to find out the problematic points with that. And then it will be clear what to do with it. We will have. Thank you.
Алексей, спасибо большое.
Thank you very much, Alexei.
Так, вот,
Right now, so Yegor Shepitsyn is ready right now to
пару слов нам приветственных сказать. Давайте тогда немножко
take the floor and
сценарий. Егор, пожалуйста.
also present his welcoming speech. So, Yegor, now you have an opportunity to talk. Distinguished colleagues, I see that the schedule is changing. I noted some of the things which I would like to say, mostly about the transfer of technologies, that moments which are interesting for the ministries, and I reason with the ministries. Some of them are widely known, and now we're involved into the reloading of the corporations. Of course, from one side it looks like it's something revolutionary, but in fact it's just an organizing of the work right now. The companies are involved into.
That the work of the recommendations would be aimed at having a look at the practice and the questions of interaction between universities and these state corporations or companies with state participation. This concerns analytics. I would highlight the big role of Association of Transfer of Technologies. At the beginning of the year, they have conducted a huge work to find out the barriers, the obstacles that we have, and within this year, we practically work on the tasks that they highlighted. So probably it will lead to some new regulations or creation of a working group on technological support. But this work will be implemented into the work of the companies, and the blocks responsible for interaction with the universities will start working more intensively. This work will be more resultative. There will be more dynamics in comparison with the last decade. The second thing I would like to say a few words about that. We didn't have huge research dedicated to this topic, and this week we will accept scientific work conducted by one of our universities, and I believe it will be a starting point to begin to measure this market, to calculate some indicators that will allow us in due time within the chain of some construction, we can have a look at the dynamics of numbers and figures, so we can single out the barriers, the obstacles within the current economic situation in Russia. And I would just repeat the definition said by Mr. Filimonov. If we learn how to calculate, how to trace the chain from the idea to implementation, we will be able to find the holes, the gaps, problematic points. I would repeat myself and say barriers that we need to work on. So this year, this work has been launched, and together with my colleagues, we will read, we will work, and we will work with the state corporations and send them where they see potential points of growth. And the last thing I would like to say that we have another initiative connected with the development of the so-called information technological centers. It's a certain preferential regime that resembles Skolkovo in some way, that presumes regulatory sandbox, some preferences in taxes and customs, but the difference is with these technical valleys, as we call it, that in our center, all these constructions, universities deal with it. It's their initiative. And we settle teams that do the research work and the research and development work. Another innovative we developed a law draft that would be present at the government in December this year, and there we stipulated additional criteria concerning the definition of the direction of activity of these innovative technological centers and their interaction with universities. And here we need to come back to previous speaker. It would be a key point in interaction between the developers and scientists that would be working in this regime, the so-called residents, and the construction of working with partners that the startups are lacking, or the residents are lacking. So a certain structure must compensate it. It can be the Center of Mastering Technologies, or it can be another name, but we understand the idea. So this is the team that will allow designers and scientists to work with developers so that they would have a potential in their work. So these just a short brief description of my greeting word. So I would like to wish you good luck, but unfortunately I need to go to the minister to see the minister right now. Good luck, everyone, and work hard. And I would like to mention that the Minister of Economic Development is always open for cooperation. We're ready to support from other side and speak about our initiatives, so what we are doing. So I will come back to the previous speaper. So what happened with the transformation of business climate? Thank you. Thank you, Igor.
As I see that Igor left us, so colleagues, maybe you have some questions. We have at least a minute. Yes, but as our event today is dedicated to the exchange of the best practices, what should the regions do in order to be involved into the creation and organization of the work on technologies and the involvement of universities into this work? Which should be the first steps? So at the end, I have also mentioned that we now implement new criteria. They would be also in the frame of the trust right now. there would be four main initial aspects. The first, the university should be ready and also represent the points, the areas which they applied for. For example, if the university is involved into electronics, but then they would like to claim and to apply for the oil chemistry, of course it would be quite strange. There are a lot of different directions, but if it is the main target of the university and they have also the foundation for it, and it is the priority of university, of course they will have a potential. The second thing is the involvement of partners. In all the cases when we are talking about the fact that we should create some place where there would be residents and investors, of course we should see them. The first thing, if it's greatly written in a document, but quite another thing is in practice, when we are working on the invoice, and then we see that the investors are not confirmed. There could be not the right place, not the right direction. It's also quite a big problem. Sometimes, initially, there could be no team at all, but of course it could be formed. And if the university invests a lot into the direction, of course it could be understandable. The synergy of the estimates, of the indicators. Sometimes the initial numbers of the region could show the prospects of the project. Previously, I have already mentioned the partners. Another essential aspect is we are talking about the subsidiaries which are not placed in Moscow. Apart from it, the task needs regional support and also regional authority support. That's why the potential could not be realized. And it could be also a decline in this potential. Because the projects, in fact, they are the case of state and the case of authorities. If the governor, for example, is involved into the project, into the implementation and transfer of innovations, this regional support would provide the further implementation of the tasks. And I think the fourth thing is, of course, if we'll have a great and strong team, also the support. We're talking about the future and potential. The next thing is the fund, the leading fund for it. The level of leading and also the legislation should be organized in the correct way. That's why we also added this point to the estimation. And we hope that in the nearest future we will get the average understanding, the common understanding, and maybe all the regions would be placed on one line in this sphere. Thank you for the commentaries. I have I would like to ask all the speakers to meet the points, meet the minutes, also because we also have other speakers to talk. So Alexei also mentioned the generation of the indicators. We'll also talk about
напрямую зависит от исследовательской активности
other
вузов
issues
и
too,
от
but the generation of
ее
the
стимулирования.
indicators
И
is
с этой точки
mostly
зрения действительно
connected
есть
with the involvement of the
уникальные
universities, and there are
примеры.
special examples which
Например,
are
это
provided.
Новосибирская
For
область
example,
и
Novosibirsk
Академпарк
region
Новосибирской
and
области.
Academ Park there.
Действительно очень эффективные
It's one
примеры
of the most
взаимодействия
efficient
университетской науки,
ways,
академической науки, с
most of
бизнесом
efficient
и
approaches
представителями
which they implement in consolidation with the representatives of the foundation, also the authorities. That's why I would like to ask Levan Tatunashvili, could you please tell us, for the time of Academ Park existing, being the representative of it, which stimuli of research work were the best practices to implement it? Today we also talked about the push technologies. What about the attitude of the offers provided to the park? Good afternoon, dear colleagues. Thank you for the opportunity to participate in your session. I would like to underline that for 13 years of our Academ Park, I could say that our situation has changed somehow. And we have this kind of the transfer. If 13 years ago it was something like a technology push, we were mostly operating from the point of view of research and innovation activities, the projects which occur in higher educational institutions. You know about the Academ City? It's just campus, it's just a full system. I could say it's a unique and solid ecosystem. That's why the results of their work was a kind of a common thing. So first of all, it was a kind of technologies and projects. Right now, we mostly take such projects which has a demand at the market. As it was previously mentioned by Alexey Filimonov, now we have several natural processes there. The first one is, as we have a wave-like change of acceptable operating army of youngsters of different generations, we now see the same with transfer technologies. 13 years ago, when we have just started of talking about the transfer of technologies, we had the designs which remain for several years and also from the Soviet Union too. So the first projects were mostly connected to the pre-perestroika period. So, firstly, the design are made in a special environment, and still they cannot be talked about as for the ready for the transfer. So the designs which were made before the perestroika period, they were implemented in the framework of the federal projects, a commerce project, and were commercialized in the right way. When we come to the period of 90s, when we have a significant decline in the acceptable development, that wave, that measures which were undertaken since 2000,
проявляться, и сейчас все больше и больше,
They are now reflected in our life,
которые могут
and so the development reached
технологического трансфера. Да?
the implementation of the basis of the technologies for the future.
Главенствуют как раз проекты, которые...
Right now,
Но это
we have the projects
такое свое объяснение. Есть второй фактор, да, еще что в начале...
which take the top place right now. As for the second explanation that I could provide, at the beginning of 2000, the business was not ready for implementation of such things.
Заказчик.
And also the level of
Мне предоставили слово, я хотел бы... Вот я думаю, что на этих вопросах...
the level of consumers was also quite different, I could say. It was lower.
Первое, мы должны понимать, что
First of all, we should understand that
в российских
in Russian universities,
крайне сильный дефицит инфраструктурных
there is a deficiency of infrastructure spaces, which could provide the opportunity
лабораторного, то, что называется,
to implement the research work and develop new technologies
разработка уже становится приемлемой для
to make the right quality for its further commercializing.
И этот аспект,
And this aspect,
преимущество в Академгородке, потому
we had an advantage in our park, Academ Park, because we had the support of the Ministry of Economic Development.
в базе Академпарка, технопарка Новосибирского Академгородка,
And
первоначально была
also,
создана там хорошая
initially,
площадка,
there was a great infrastructure space in Academ Park, and also technological opportunities which provided
которые
the success which we were talking about.
сделал хороший опыт этой
Just because we had really a good experience in implementation of it. So the infrastructure and also
и верификации технологий.
the presence of the testing centers and all necessary spaces is one of the best inputs into the further development.
Они не подменяют эту функцию, нужна другая инфраструктура. Вот если я правильно понял вопрос, я вроде бы...
If I understood the question correctly, I do believe I have provided the answer.
Дискутировать долго и упорно. Я бы еще хотел подчеркнуть...
I also would like to stress one of the questions, one of the issues which is quite significant for me. Firstly, I started in 1988 when I first were involved into the technologies for printers. After that,
мы периодически возвращаемся к разным...
we once again turned back to the different processes of redevelopment,
что идет некая перезагрузка в корпорации.
and also a reload of corporations. And all the time, then I'm asked about the advancement of the work in the universities, research work in universities. It's all about the question to the people working at the universities. In each state institution, they have different ways of regulations.
Количеством штатных единиц. Так вот,
Also, the amount of employers that should
относятся к вспомогательным.
work there. And I could say that in Russian universities, academics are mostly
Возникают большие
the representatives of additional staff.
развития центра трансфера.
So if we would like to initiate the development of technologies, of course, we should first start with the employers and their payment, their salary too. It should be also raised as the ordinary pedagogical staff. So it was an application for the Ministry of Education at least 5 times or so, and all the time it was accepted, but still they refused to implement it because we have the deficiency and also a lot of other problems. That's why it's all about the question of regulation documents. And the question should be solved
кадровый состав, да, этих центров трансфера.
So, firstly, we should start with employers
Кадровом составе, высококвалифицированном кадровом
of
составе
a high quality
университетов,
of
если по нормативным
our
документам
research and finance universities, just because
я вот не буду дальше
the regulation documents are still not involving
задайте вопросы, чем я
the
сам.
representatives of the research cluster.
Коллеги, есть ли у вас вопросы?
So I am still ready to answer your questions.
Can you tell us who must take this organizational and financing work on promoting the centers at the universities? Well, you said they're lacking of these platforms, so who must finance this and who must support them?
Ну, вот, если мы посмотрим на мировой практику,
If we look at the world practice,
то есть есть разные
there are different
традиционные
traditional
решения, да? Вот
ways of solution.
в университете вы найдете центр,
You say in every state you will find university that is financed by NASA or Department of Defense
военно-воздушные.
or Air Force.
Можно посмотреть на бразильскую.
You can have a look at Brazil. In Brazil, due to correct spread of taxes, they have a special tax for innovations for state corporations that go directly to universities. And because of these finances, state corporations like Petrobras and Breyer, they create, in collaboration with these corporations, they create centers. Of course, it's not the budget of the Ministry of Education. I haven't met that in any country. Because, formally speaking, why it is space or law enforcement structures financed it, because we understand that financing of one center is equal to the cost of an airplane, fighter jet, and on the background of the budget, such investments very reasonable and objective. They're managed by a separate structure in the ministry, but again, it's a big question. Center of Technical Transfer, it's a subdivision of university, or it's a separate structure that provides the management and activity. So we can speak a lot about it, about advantages and disadvantages of this or that form, or in this or that form of development. And these questions are being discussed right now.
Ливан
Вахтангович, thank you very much for your comment. Unfortunately, we are pressed for time. The very interesting question, the staff and the right motivation of staff. I believe that we have someone who can comment on that. Republic of Sakha, Yakutia. IT industry reached huge amounts in recent years, and we have in driver Maitona right now that used to be just a startup, and it would be impossible with our right staff policy. And I would like to ask Anatoly to comment, how do you work with staff, with personnel who are dealing with the development of innovative projects, and what other factors play the key role? Good afternoon, Dmitry, dear colleagues, Alexei. I'm very happy to see you all. Due to pandemics, we meet only in Zoom, but this is at least something. If we have this possibility, I'm very happy that our colleagues from Bashkortostan and from the agency gathered us together. I would like to ask slide number 6, please, because I have a very huge presentation. And I don't want to speak. Next slide, please. I will speak everything on this slide. So the topic that we raised today, we've been doing it since 2012, so it's about 8 years. If we speak about Yakutia, it's not. There's a big work behind it of the whole team of the Republic. And this ecosystem that is shown on the slide is, with our team, we studied in MIT for 2 years, and business school Elephant or Swan, and we took some experience there with colleagues, and in order to tune correctly the interrelationship between, we spoke about different elements today, separate elements, but colleagues from Novosibirsk was speaking about the importance of science, of education, of infrastructure separately. But on the whole, in our ecosystem, it looks more, it looks wider, but it's a bigger variant. It should be entrepreneurs, first of all, the people who, technological entrepreneurs, who are in the market already, who are dealing with technological business, and who are presented in the region, who are actively involved into this ecosystem. In our case, it's such companies as Driver, Maitona, Fantastic, that are presented on the global markets already. And on the one hand, we have so they feel the ecosystem financially, but on the other hand, they consume innovations. We have a special foundation to finance projects, so we give 2 million rubles on a certain stage, and we had an agreement when one of the huge companies bought our project that we financed 1 year ago. So right now we have a consumer in this case, and we organize different events with startup schools and so on, IT schools, that we have more than 50 private IT schools in Yakutia that educate 4,500 children, and they are financed by private business. And of course we have venture fund foundations supporting. So this is all entrepreneurs. If we don't have entrepreneurs, it would be very sad. Then, of course, we have venture business, since we are in the Far East. The money from the federal centers coming very hard, because we are far away. And so we create foundations ourselves. We have several of them. They developed, they are divided into several stages. But the complexity in the seeding, so we covered this part ourselves. I mean, the financial. We finance about 20 projects a year, but we start with 10 and more. And then we have Foundation of High Technologies of Far East and others. Also, we have huge corporations. As you know, we have huge companies as Surgutneftegas, Gazprom, Sila Sibiri, Kolmar, Rosneft, Alrosa. We have mining industry developing a lot, and of course we work together with them and involve them into our ecosystem. They set tasks for our innovative companies, and I would like to say that we are solving their tasks and creating new products. And last year we made an expedition together with our foundation, with our partners, and we did it in Far East, and we visited one city. And this year we start doing it online and do it all over the country. So it means that we don't only concentrate on projects in Yakutsk. And this year we had a partner, Severstal, Alrosa, and Driver. And we have projects that are implemented through the startup expedition. We put them on the webpage startupexpedition.ru, and we found projects in Russia to solve these tasks. For example, Alrosa IT and Severstal in Driver, they have negotiations right now with the companies that existing in Russia, so they will sign contracts. So it means huge corporations in our ecosystem. It's a certain demand and task to organize demand, since the B2B market is huge, and these can help to move further on. Of course, it's government, it's regulations and laws. We have a Ministry of Innovation and Digital Development in our region. We have a special decree of the head of our republic, and several foundations that finance the projects. So we support them in normative way, together with the government. And thanks God, the government is oriented in this market as well and interested in it. The innovative strategy is longer than the elections of the governors, so we have to plan at least 15-20 years. So it's very complicated, but a lot of it depends on the position of the government. And as you said, by answering your question, it's education. We have several Northern East Federal University, where we created Center of Entrepreneurship. We work actively together with the university. We do a huge reset of implementation, special lessons on entrepreneurship, practically in all the chairs of university. We work with technological partners. And so we actively attract the university. We also have a lot of colleges that, together with us, performing this reset. And of course, our guys who study in central universities, we try to attract them as well. So I would like to say that Yakutia occupies 80% of these services. We are in top 10. Nevertheless, we have only 318,000 population. So our task is to create 10,000 job places, and we're moving into this direction actively, and we're trying to be open and transparent to the world. On the 15th of December, I invite everyone to a conference that would be in Zoom and in YouTube. It will be in English. There will be more than 100 venture investors there, and we share startup, and we're not trying to hold it within the region. We are an open, and we're trying to conduct open policy. Thank you very much, Anatoly. Yes, you made it in time. And when we will move on, to give opportunity to all the speakers to say a few words. So this is the example of interaction between educational establishments, science, and government and foundations is built in an effective way. So that to distract a bit, I would like to give you an opportunity to have a look at an example of another format. We have technological companies that face walls on each step they make, and they have to break through them, compete constantly with some unknown obstacles. And such examples are good because they highlight the gaps, the barriers, the obstacles that we have and how it could be solved. So I would like to invite right now Mikhail Krundyshev. He's the general director of Exoatlet. It's a company that creates exoskeleton constructions for medical rehabilitation, medical and social rehabilitation. So please share your experience, how you developed. Thank you, Dmitry. Thank you for a very lively talk. I'm very happy to see your success. I will tell you a story. Our example became a case. I was surprised. Story of our company in one of the business schools in Russia as a case. And they say, what will be with the company in the future? And one of the pupils addressed to me and say, what will be with the company? The project started in 2011. It's a good example of full cycle of transfer of technologies that the colleagues are speaking about on this event. It started from a lab of Moscow State University when a group of students made a special emergency saving skeleton. This job was done from 2011 to 2013. It finished with nothing as usual, and a group of young students, inspired by their scientific supervisor, wanted to do something else with it, and the project was just a bit ahead of time. Due to diversity of different instruments of support that we have right now. But at that time, we were lucky that we found each other, and it happened that we knew the scientific supervisor and decided to license this technology because it was just interesting for me and to my partner, Ekaterina Bizi, and to do something in this field of innovations. At a certain point of time, you want to do something that have value, even though it sounds a bit trivial, but from that moment we start all the obstacles Dmitry was saying about. And first two of all, and Livan was saying about these things, because I've seen in 2016, 2015 in Israel, the platforms, that the companies there make breakthroughs, but it's good when the company of 4 people has a possibility to do technological startup, because we have a huge center of testing and projecting to cover their needs. In Russia, we didn't have it, and this is the first problem we faced. And we had to, like Captain Nemo, we had to make our own submarines and different things. So we did practically the same. We coped with that, and in 2016 we implemented hybrid outsourcing when we had, on the basis of one enterprise, we rent a workshop with equipment, and we registered our first medical equipment. And at that time, when it seemed to us that everything was perfect and we conquered the world, we had a regulatory problem because we were coping with medical equipment. And the problem was, it's not only enough to create it, but we need to send it to the market somehow, because it changed all the regulatory work, the standards, tariffs, and so on. And then we met Dmitry the moment he was in IC. He helped us to break through these regulatory barriers, and probably we had the major barrier. It's how to make that innovative product in technological sectors would join the market. It's not enough to create a product. You must launch it into the market. And the next stage, we faced the problem where it's a problem of entering foreign markets. And I guess it's a big problem for the majority of Russian technological startups. Because nobody expects us there. There we face not with the support, but not only with competition, but with some prohibitions as well. Everyone supports local producers, so that's why the registration and certification processes and organization of sales, you get under harsh pressing. What helped us is that we put a bet on finding a local Korean partner. We organized second production there, and thanks to our Korean partner and supplies of high-tech components from Russia, we organized a joint venture in Korea, and in our understanding it was the chance that we can use to commercialize abroad. And probably this problem will be the same to all technological companies. I know that we have a number of agencies that are trying to work and help us in these directions, but we still have a lot of work to do on that. And Skolkovo right now renders a great support that helps at least with import of some high-tech components, and it's a very good support right now. And the last thing I would like to say is the problem of personnel or staff problem. I would support two previous speakers, Ivan and Anatoly. People do everything, and if you don't invest into people, starting with university, develop them and educate them and increase their entrepreneurship motivation and change their minds, I guess you will face the defeat. We do a lot of our work. It's a thorough job to gather the team, and it's not about the monetary things. It's just about the development of personality, and maybe only in this case you can come up with something. Thank you very much. If you have questions.
Yeah, thank you, Mikhail. It's just a significant example. Mikhail also noted that the infrastructure, not only Mikhail is talking about it, of course, the right infrastructure, and from this point of view, our regions and all in all, and the regions of the Russian Federation, there are a lot of great examples of the right infrastructure decisions, and also the involvement of foreign investments. For example, Kaluga Oblast, which went on the development in the cluster way, and the program of development of Kaluga Oblast or Kaluga region. The first of the things which they mostly pay their attention to as the development of the staff, the personnel. That's why I believe it would be interesting to listen to the General Director of the Agency of Innovational Development, Pavel. So what about these 10 years and the results which you have after these 10 years of working in implementation of the cluster program, and what are your future prospects for the further 10 years? Distinguished colleagues, I would like to start from some global thing. Of course, in 2006, the government of Kaluga region decided to attract all the resources to form the cluster of the car industry. For example, we attracted Volkswagen, and in 5 years after Volkswagen appeared in our region, also 30 plants which are producing the details for Volkswagen occurred in our region, and also we had Peugeot and Citroën who joined us. Of course, another aspect which we are also interested in and also developing is 56 entities, 56 institutions which are connected to the biotechnologies. We also conduct a great work in the innovations. So the cluster politics of Kaluga region is now includes 8 spheres: car producing, informational technologies, nuclear technologies, and also medical industry. The Agency of Innovation Development of Kaluga region also conduct a great job in the interaction with different institutions. Our favorite and the most effective one is the Fund of Innovation support because in 10 years during these 10 years we have attracted more than 890 million of rubles for the investments of our technologies. The breaking point for us were in solution of the staff question, of course, was the 2009 strategy of innovation development, where the cluster development is also confirmed, and with the attraction of great foreign companies to work with us in different fields, occurred the question where to find people working, just because these fields were new for our region and they had no background during the Soviet Union period and also further. That's why Kaluga region decided to create the institutions of the higher professional education and also the centers for additional education of the staff and workers in car industry. In 2018, we created one of it, and right now we have at least 15,000 graduates from it, and we could right now prepare not only workers for our region, but also the graduates are working in Samara region and others. As for the medical items producing, we also generate the workers in the line of innovational fields. On the basis of the nuclear university, we have developed another place to prepare the personnel for pharmaceuticals, and they also, right now, after graduation, they know where they could work. So we could also say and also call this experience as a successful one. We have more than 140 enterprises, which are not quite big, but still they are involved in a great job. We have a lot of just ordinary educational institutions which have an immersion into IT. We also have a lot of IT schools in the region, which cover from the first up to the final grade the students there into IT. It's a great history for the further development of these fields in the world. And right now, as for the prospects of the development of IT in the region up to the year 2030, half of the clusters, part of the clusters are dedicated to the development of this sphere. Some of them also went through the register of the industrial clusters of the Ministry of Trade of the Russian Federation. And of course, we try to develop everything for the we try and we struggle for the creation of the innovational center in Obninsk. Now they implement the final corrections from the Ministry of the Russian Federation, and I do hope that the pack of documents would be sent to the state authorities, and I hope that there would be a new period because for this field, just because this field is based on the fields provided by our innovation centers. It's IT, pharmaceuticals, ceramics, new tools. We try to cover everything. So we are positive about our further work in the future, some support is I could say that we lose some support, but then we gain some other support, and we try to stay alive, to survive, and also see the prospects. Thank you a lot, Pavel. Of course, the cluster attitude and approach showed that it's an effective way in the interaction with the investors and also foreign representatives of business. But when the question is about the implementation of larger projects, for example, the projects of Russian enterprises, of course, here we have the question not about competences, which we would like to find in some places, but the combination of different competences, of different fields and different objects and institutions of our country. From this point of view, there is an approach in creation of engineering centers. For example, one of such projects is an engineering center which implements large projects of the Russian enterprises, also that one which are implemented in the regional infrastructure objects. Of course, there are also a lot of risks about what we would also ask Nikolai Kolpakov. How do you usually choose and which boundaries do you face during the implementation of the projects?
Thank you for the possibility to speak at this event that is conducted in the Republic of Bashkortostan. I would like to make a small presentation at the beginning so that you would have more understanding of what we are engaged in, and then to say a few words about the problems that we faced during the implementation of tasks for the industrial basis of the Russian Federation. Indeed, one of the most important agenda today is agenda of working with regions. We have an agreement with Bashkortostan, and I'm very happy to see Sakha-Yakutia at this meeting. We also have an agreement with the Republic Sakha-Yakutia on interaction in these fields. And so why do we focus on regions? Just because industry is located not in the center of Russian Federation, not in Moscow, but on the territory of the Russian Federation. So the main industrial potential is in the regions, and one of the major factors is that a large number of problems arising, but not because our customers don't want to spread the tasks, but for the same reason, is that our industry is not competitive enough for participation. It can be evaluated, so it's not competitive with foreign industries. So we had an example about exoskeleton. That it's not expecting us, but we understand when nobody expects us abroad, but they come to our markets and they face companies that cannot compete on the foreign market, but competition on the home market is very, very high as well. So please, can you have another slide, please? Among our partners that we are working with and interact with, such companies as Gazprom, Rosneft, RZD, Rosatom, Rosseti, Alrosa, Nornickel, Rusal. In what directions do we interact with our partners? So it's analysis of investment programs to find the gaps between the technologies are equipped with. The programs are equipped with, in comparison with foreign and Russian, if we are lagging behind. So we have a certain time period to fix it. If we see on the side of trades a certain solution, technological solution, and it's oriented for a foreign producer, it means that we are late here. So this is the reality of our time. The next question is consolidation of technological demands of corporations and forming a task. Unless we have a special volume that corresponds to the market, so we cannot produce anything. So for small batches, it is impossible to organize if it's not innovative, narrow, specialized product, and we cannot make it unless we have a competitor in this sector. And there will be the question of price. Then we have a question of the work with our suppliers so that they would correspond the expectations of our customers. Next slide, please. On this slide, we show what we have managed to provide, what we have managed to do. We had a problem with Gazprom, but we managed to implement a huge project on placing an order from abroad to Russia, and it showed that our industry, within certain approaches, can cope with these tasks. But we need to use special levelers, measures to orient correctly the facilities and to choose the suppliers. I repeat, the situation is simple, but the foreign suppliers supply a solid product initially, and within the framework of any startup, of any measures, people look not at what they can do, but at who and how will buy their product. So this is the situation. So these questions we have in the sphere of interaction between industrial facilities. Next slide, please. On this slide, we show our plans. We're planning to get back to serious volumes of products on the territory of Russian Federation. I will not stop on each figure in detail as they're shown on the slide, but I would like to say a few words about the question, the problems that we face on the territory of Russian Federation. It's a huge and wide spectrum of problems and then questions that we need to speak about. First, that we face, it's a transition of deadline terms. Very often suppliers take certain responsibilities that they correspond, but on the one hand, but on the other hand, there is a possibility to shift these terms. Changes of price, bad quality, lack of qualified personnel and competences. One of the major problems that stops from implementing the tasks that we need to implement. Lack of funds. It's one of the problems on the territory of Russian Federation. In any industry, medium size, small size, big size business, everywhere there's a financial instrument deficit that would allow to provide funds for allocating facilities and implementing the tasks. So how do we protect ourselves in this situation? It proved to be very effective. We developed a methodology when we, together with customers, we make selection and form the roadmap
производственных мощностей на территории
of the industrial facilities on the territory of Russian Federation, and this algorithm comprises a few directions. If you open in one slide, we will stop on methodology.
Вот, да, здесь. В этот алгоритм входит ряд направлений.
This algorithm comprises several directions. So first, it's general algorithm of interaction with corporations. Then it's regulations on selection, of open selection of. Then methodology of formation of request. Methodology of evaluating the level of readiness of technology. Regulations. So it depends how it should, how the customer should look at the technology. Then regulations on conduction of requests for technical solutions and all other kinds of methodology on expertise. So using all these methodics, we start understanding what is the potential supplier, who is the potential supplier, and can he cope with a potential task, and what can be done so that he could cope with the tasks they have. Today, we have certain very serious experience in this situation, and we can conclude the following, that the majority of tasks, potential tasks, can be solved by the industry of the Russian Federation. But the question is, we need the necessary scale, control, and probably we need predictability of forming the pool of tasks that we need to be oriented on. So this scale and possibilities, we have it, and we can see that our industry is really improving up to the level the customer expects, and we can compete with foreign companies as well. One of the instruments in work, if we analyze investment programs, it's the instrument of localizing technologies in spheres where we're lagging behind seriously, and the investment will be in very big volumes that we cannot get back. So there we offer foreign players to localize on the territory of the Russian Federation and grow their personnel, so that it's only where the level is not very high. Of course, and where we can just refocus for our local production.
Потенциал, допустим, применения каких-то технологий, которые выходят с вузов. И действительно, здесь мы видим ситуацию следующую.
So here we see the situation that this gap is huge. That because we have no understanding and infrastructure and the problems that we had before, and we try to solve them, and we see them on the final stage of interaction with our suppliers and the customers, and this is a serious barrier of local players to enter the market. Thank you for your attention. I tried to be as brief as possible. Yes, Nikolai, thank you very much. Colleagues, we have only a few minutes left, so probably, and we have another two speakers, so we will move to another question. We spoke about market pool and meeting the demands of the market and finding competencies. But I would like to pay attention to the direction of technology push and looking for investors for some unique projects. And here in Irkutsk region, that also is in our association, they have a huge experience because they have Russian, China, Swiss lab opened in this region. So, Yana Alexeyevna, please tell us, how do you find investors, foreign investors, and how do you evaluate perspective designed to find investors?
Добрый день, коллеги. Очень
Good afternoon, colleagues.
видите, привет.
I'm glad to see you here.
Всем хорошего здоровья.
I wish you good health,
И
Siberian health,
безусловно,
very strong. And of course,
инвестиционное агентство
we as an investment agency, our major task is to attract investments, but any investor would like to understand what unique technology and
в какой уникальный продукт
what unique product
может войти,
he can invest to get money back and profit as soon as possible. We have a very interesting experience in the creation of a model of support of industrial cooperation during pandemics.
Это был очень удачный опыт.
And it was a very good experience since we had many conditions set here. Development
Базовой
of
технологии,
basic technology that is highly demanded right now on the market,
с диагностикой
connected with diagnostics of viral diseases,
наличие у нас
and the existence of investment company in our region, Russian-Chinese company that is searching for developments and invest funds into it
выводит на рынок.
and launches some products into the market. And of course, we have competence of our scientific universities and institutes of SORA that can evaluate the technology and probably to collaborate with it. So the project of lab that we had,
На мой взгляд,
in my understanding, is successful just because
получилось соединить как раз
we managed to combine all the necessary parts.
Институт химии
Institute of Chemistry chose the technology, the world technology that was ready to be commercialized, added their competences. Moscow company, Moscow IT companies worked on this technology and gave the software. And the received product is participating right now in business accelerator and is ready to get patent. We are ready to launch it on the market, but any kind of search for investor is connected with the participation of international business missions, and we have a very interesting experience of business mission of Association of Innovative Regions into Korea. A lot of speakers spoke about Korea today. In October 2018, we had a business mission. We visited a lot of technoparks, many business accelerators, and in one of the technoparks, before that, we visited a company that was developing new technologies, production of test sticks for measuring sugar level in blood. The technology was interesting that instead of gold on carbon, they used carbon that made the cost of product by 30%. and the Korean company was ready to go large scale. And since 2018, within 2 years, we have built a plant. The technology was worked on, had final tune, and right now, Russian innovative product registered and is sold. And 2 weeks ago, we had Minister of Industry, Manturov, and he visited this plant and highly appreciated the result of this mutual work with Korean investors and Korean developers. And another story, it's not so fast as test sticks, but on one of the meetings on accelerators, we met a big company that produces oil and gas equipment, and we offered our own development on oil and gas equipment that was made in Irkutsk. And right now we have negotiations on the stage when we're organizing a new legal entity in Irkutsk that is planning to produce this equipment on our territory. Of course, the possibility of not only present. Of course, we work with trade representatives, with different business unions, but if we focus on innovative search and the business mission, give us possibility to work on smart investors that were looking for smart developments, smart projects. When we choose projects that we offer for investment, of course, it's very important to have expertise or expert evaluation, and here collaboration with different business accelerators helps a lot. We have very interesting experience of work with business accelerator, company 12. Since 2017, we work closely together. And they say that we give more requests in the country. We had 150 startups within 3 years. 35 of them came here and had tracked 8 and 9 of them went on study to them. And of course, this startup, it's very easy to attract investments for these startups. And right now we're launching new accelerator for Stach, together with the Global Virtual Alliance, that will look for and implement high-tech technologies. And we actively involved into the work with them. And we are ready to work. Right now we're selecting startups for the development that would be used in business accelerators and to offer them to companies that deal with forestry, and they are diversifying their business. Yes, Yana Alexeyevna, I'm sorry, but I will sum up. It means that the instruments of business accelerators in terms of evaluation of technology push, they prove to be effective. It's undoubted, there's no doubt about it. And international business missions for finding business investors. And we have the last speaker.
So, Sergey, I would like you also to make the summary of everything which we have heard today. I know that right now in the Republic of Bashkortostan, they prepare a new innovation plan for the further development? Which priorities do you implement, do you add? And maybe could you also provide some commentaries to the things which we discussed today? First of all, I would like to start with a short presentation of the tools which we have in the Republic. We are mostly oriented on your rating, and according to your rating, we take still the 12th stage. We also studied the points which we need to implement in order to reach a higher rate. And also we see the dynamics, and right now we have such kind of situation that right now we are leaders in the sphere of industry. There are a lot of large enterprises. We also have a high scientific potential, but still we have a problem with innovation startups. The situation is quite unusual just because right now we have a lot of youngsters. We have 200,000 students, also 650,000 people under the age of 30, and it's quite a good rating for, the numbers are quite good for the whole Russia, and we understand that the problem is not only in the transfer of technologies. The problem is quite broader. It's due to the mentality too. First of all, I could say we are narrow-minded in some issues. For example, there were a lot of people who started their development of the innovation, but then they reached the documentation issues and they decided to give up. And most of people, they have a prospect for 3 years or 2, but not more. There are a lot of students who are involved into the development of the projects for UFA, but still not further. First of all, we should also develop the mind of people, their consciousness, and then we decided to analyze the Republic, and of course we had an experience. We also had a kind of Republic program, and it was ordered by the Ministry of Technologies. And we were thinking that only that startups, of course, are implemented not only in the capital of our region, but also we summoned at least 200 applications. Some of the projects reached some special states. They also had a giant amount of money which they were funded for. And we also realized that some of the small towns, they are also having their startups, but the reason is that they do not know their opportunities. They live by themselves. So the result is, which we understand, that we should create an ecosystem for startups, not only in the capital of our republic, but also in small cities too. We would like to make the ecosystem of the region in order to involve all the corners of our republic, and also maybe support and raise the thing that they should also implement some and think globally and also try to enter the international markets. So we have an issue task to gain the support till 2024. Thank you, Sergey. Yeah, we have some minutes to discuss. So, which infrastructural objects or foundations you would like to rely? I think it's also about our relevant fields. That's why we decided to look through our research basis which we have. We also understood our prospects, which we should be involved into chemistry, digital chemistry and eco-chemistry, creation of the new materials, also digital technologies and industry, just because we're an industrial region. So the first thing which I would like to mention is the choice of the field. As for the infrastructure, we understood that it's not enough to have the competences which we have right now, and we understood that we right now should consolidate with someone in order to reach our goals. We understood that we should interact with the best representatives in Russia and the world. We also have plans in the development of our relationships with your associations and also the associations for the transfer of the innovations. And maybe it's a recommendation from me to all the viewers, because there is no region which could do everything in solo. That's why we need consolidation. Another thing is, we're talking about the transfer of technologies. We should also involve the Ministry of Culture, because all the problems occur in our minds. It's not about our tools or maybe spaces or platforms. It's about our mind. Thank you, Sergei. Maybe you would like to add something? Yes. I could say that the highlight of the all speeches today is the lack of stuff prepared, the academic stuff prepared for the innovations. And maybe we should do some changes and implement the best practices, search for best practices and then implement it. We are open for discussion of such things and also for such applications. I enjoyed one of the speeches which was connected to the documentation, because sometimes it is needed to make it easier to implement greatest practices and to organize the environment for the transfer of innovations. I would like to add that the platform is essential to learn more about the new opportunities. Of course, we know a lot about the problems, but the reason is to listen to other points and also to the offers of other people, and not to think for long and start the actions. Thank you very much. And also to sum up, I would like to say that the examples which we saw today are the cases when the stake is placed onto a special direction of development of the region, and the stuff is prepared and the infrastructure is prepared according to this field. That's why it is needed to choose the narrow direction which is in force historically, and also prepare people involved into the work. From the point of view, just on behalf of our association, we continue our work on the exchange of experience and practices, and we believe that when we have an opportunity to exchange everything face-to-face, our practices face-to-face, it would be more profitable for everyone involved into the industry. Thank you for participation. It's the end of our session.